In 2019, a team of archivists at the Smithsonian recovered a dusty reel of magnetic tape labeled Mariner V trajectory code. At first glance, the discoverers assumed the program behind that crucial 1967 Venus flyby had been engineered by a cohort of white-shirted male engineers. A deeper look exposed a different signature. Primary analysis routines by C. Jacobs. Caroline Jacobs, then 24, had written the code that helped correct the spacecraft's mid-course error. Her name vanished from popular memory in the half-century that followed. Such disappearances are not anomalies, they are the norm. The spinal cord of modern life, computing, networking, cybernetics, was built by teams that included thousands of women. Yet textbooks, museum exhibits, and corporate lore routinely distill that multiplicity to a concise pantheon of male heroes. Turing, von Neumann, Jobs, Gates, Musk. Where are Jacobs, Arlene Saucy, Adele Goldstein, Dana Uleri, Katherine Johnson, Edwina Bolton, Karen Spark Jones, Radia Perlman, and Marissa Mayer, to name only a few across time? This exploration is not an exhaustive list of forgotten heroines. It is a narrative archaeology. We will traverse 5 overlapping eras: pre-digital calculation, code-breaking wars, the mainframe golden age, personal computing, and the internet explosion, searching the strata for women whose stories were buried by institutional bias, intellectual copyright structures, and the apparently simple physics of who holds the microphone when history is retold. Along the way, we will meet visionary mathematicians, radar engineers, bioinformaticians, and open-source evangelists who rewired possibility even as their achievements were deemed clerical or misattributed to male supervisors. At stake is more than historical fairness. It is innovation's self-knowledge. If we forget the half who built yesterday, we will misunderstand the full potential of tomorrow. Chapter 1. Before Computers, The Human Engines, 1800-1942. 1.8 Lovelace and the Long Shadow of Celebrity. Any article on women in tech begins predictably with Augusta Ada King, Countess of Lovelace. Her 1843 notes on Charles Babbage's analytical engine anticipated conditional branching and subroutines, earning her the honorary title First Computer Programmer. But focusing only on Lovelace can obscure the broader social phenomenon. 19th century scientific labor often relied on women-human computers, anonymous figures plotting astronomical tables, signaling the telegraph wires, and crunching balloon data for meteorology. 1.2 The Harvard computers. Half a century after Lovelace, director Edward Pickering hired a team of women, including Henrietta Leavitt and Annie Jump Cannon, to classify stellar spectra for the Harvard Observatory. Paid half the wage of male clerks, they nonetheless produced catalogs fundamental to astrophysics. Their data reduction methods, index cards, analytic grouping, tabulation, prefigured algorithmic design. 1.3 Contested Brilliance, Hedy Lamarr and Frequency Hopping. In 1941, Hollywood actress Hedy Lamarr co-patented a secret communication system with avant-garde composer George Antheil, frequency hopping spread spectrum. The Navy classified the idea, dismissing Lamarr to Bond girl triviality. Decades later, spread spectrum became backbone to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Only in the 1990s did historians credit Lamarr's foresight, underscoring how sexualized celebrity eclipsed technical authorship. Chapter 2 The Second World War, When Women Became the Code, 1942-1946. 2.1 Bletchley Park's Secret Mathematicians. Saturated with Alan Turing's legend, Bletchley Park's story often sidelines the 8,000 women, 3/4 of staff, who operated bombs, rebuilt cipher reels, and logged teleprinter traffic. Some, like Mavis Beatty and Jean Jennings, Bartik, cracked Enigma key settings that redirected Allied convoys. Confidentiality oaths muted their voices until the 1970s. 2.2 Project X, ENIAC's Forgotten Six. When the U.S. Army unveiled ENIAC in February 1946, newsreels showcased a giant machine equipped with electronic brain power. The 6 programmers, Kay McNulty, Jean Jennings, Betty Snyder, Ruth Teitelbaum, Marlon Westkoff, and Francis Bylas, stood unnamed behind it. Tasked initially with ballistics tables, they invented debugging, breakpoints, and optimization on the fly. Oral histories recorded in the 1980s finally traced ENIAC's real architects, rewriting early software genealogy. 2.3 Top Secret Rosies. Concurrent with ENIAC, The University of Pennsylvania housed dozens of female mathematicians performing differential calculus on desk calculators to model shell trajectories. Nicknamed the Rosies after Rosie the Riveter, they proved that complex modeling tasks, once considered purely masculine, could be codified as processes, paving the conceptual highway to digital automation. Chapter 3. Mainframes in the Mid-Century Glass Ceiling, 1947-1979. 3.1. Grace Hopper, More Than COBOL. Rear Admiral Grace Murray Hopper popularized the term debugging, created the A0 compiler, and championed COBOL. Yet focusing solely on Hopper's headline feats risks overshadowing parallel innovators. 3.2. Adele Goldstein and the Instruction Manual. Adele Goldstein authored the first complete technical description of ENIAC, 1946, specifying numerical codes for operations, a blueprint for programming languages. Stricken by cancer at 43, she never saw her work extolled like her male counterparts. 3.3. Dana Ullery, NASA's trajectory pioneer, hired in 1961 as Jet Propulsion Laboratory's first female engineer, Dana Ullery built algorithms to monitor Ranger and Mariner craft. Her real-time data comparison techniques seeded NASA's Deep Space Network software, yet her name rarely surfaces outside JPL oral repositories. 3.4. Katherine Johnson and Hidden Figures, popularized by the 2016 film, Katherine Johnson calculated orbital mechanics for John Glenn's 1962 mission. But less screened colleagues, Mary Jackson, Dorothy Vaughan, Christine Darden, also wrote code, optimized nozzle dynamics, and managed IBM mainframes amid segregation. Their ascents show how race intertwined with gender to amplify erasure. 3.5. Karen Spark Jones, search engines before Google. While Bell Labs honed telephony switches, Cambridge's Karen Spark Jones, 1964-78, developed inverse document frequency, the algorithmic backbone of modern web search. She argued, computing is too important to be left to men. Her actuarial evidence that linguistic diversity improves retrieval accuracy remains central to natural language processing. 4.1. Sophie Wilson and the ARM instruction set. At 24, British engineer Sophie Wilson designed the BBC Micro Basic and, critically, the ARM instruction set in 1985. ARM now powers 230 billion chips, from iPhones to IoT sensors. Wilson's contribution seldom appears in mainstream Silicon Valley retrospectives, overshadowed by louder venture capital narratives. 4.2. Radia Perlman, mother of the Internet. Working at Digital Equipment Corp., Radia Perlman invented STP, Spanning Tree Protocol, enabling Ethernet networks to self-configure without loops, an essential step for scalable internets. While Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn front the Protocol Hall of Fame, Perlman's nets of 1985 quietly underpin global packet routing. 4.3. Susan Kerr, visual grammar of GUI. The smiling Mac Finder icon, the paint bucket cursor, and Chicago typeface came from graphic artist Susan Kerr, whose 32-32-pixel ingenuity humanized interfaces. Her pixel art forged emotional resonance as critical to adoption as code robustness, an insight still undervalued in technical histories. 4.4. Shafi Goldwasser and cryptographic complexity. In 1985, Israeli-American computer scientist Shafi Goldwasser co-authored the paper that formalized probabilistic encryption and zero-knowledge proofs, cornerstones of cryptocurrency and secure elections. Yet media often credits the cryptography boom solely to male contemporaries like Revst and Diffie. Chapter 5. Cloud to Future, the 21st Century Visibility Paradox, 2005-present. 5.1. Jeanette Wing and Big Data Trust Microsoft Research. VP Jeanette Wing coined computational thinking, 2006, lobbying for logic-driven problem framing across disciplines. She also led DARPA's cybersecurity thrust. While household names debate AI ethics, Wing's framework shapes CS curricula worldwide, preparing minds that will steward that AI. 5.2. Fei-Fei Li and Deep Learning Vision. Stanford's Fei-Fei Li built ImageNet, 2009, the 14 million image dataset that catalyzed the convolutional neural network revolution. Public discourse on deep learning often lionizes Jeff Hinton or Yann LeCun, but Li's dataset provided the scaffolding for their breakthroughs. 5.3. Ginny Rometty to Reshma Saujani, Leadership and Pipeline. When IBM appointed Virginia Ginny Rometty CEO 2012, headlines shouted, "First woman at Big Blue." Less reported were her strategic pivots into hybrid cloud. Meanwhile, entrepreneur Reshma Saujani founded Girls Who Code 2012, tackling the pipeline crisis. Their divergent paths show representation spanning corner offices and grassroots, yet media often frames them as exceptions rather than systemic indicators. Chapter 6: How Erasure Happens: Mechanisms of Invisibility. Clerical labeling. Early software labor was seen as clerical women's work, so male managers received patents. Security classifications. Bletchley women bound by secrecy until declassification, 1970s. Media bias. Press kits named project heads, rarely whole teams. Authorship norms. Conference papers limited authors. Supervisors replaced staff in bylines. Pipeline attrition. Lack of mentorship and hostile environments drive women out, truncating later recognition. Sociologist Susan Lee Starr warns infrastructure is invisible until it breaks. Women's labor was infrastructural. History only noticed the end products. Chapter 7: The Recovery Movement: Archives, Museums, and Code Reruns. 7.1 Oral History Projects. Nonprofit ENIAC Programmers Project, founded 1997 by Kathy Kleiman, filmed Last Living ENIAC Women, influencing IEEE to award them 2017 Computer Pioneer status. 7.2 Algorithmic Credit Initiative. The Association for Computational Linguistics now requires contribution statements to curb ghosting. Conferences honor Karen Spark Jones Awards spotlighting early career women. 7.3 Digital Models. GitHub repositories replicate COBOL compilers and spanning tree visualizers with source code attribution to original authors, ensuring new generations fork female-penned heritage. Chapter 8: Toward an Inclusive Future History. The tapestry of tech is indivisible. Pulling out women's threads unravels structural integrity. School curricula now weave Ada Lovelace Day, second Tuesday of October, with modules on Hedy Lamarr and Katherine Johnson. Corporations institute bias-blinding resume reads. Yet representation alone does not guarantee remembrance. It requires persistent historiography, journals, documentaries, and public monuments. Seattle dedicated a Radia Perlman footbridge in 2021. AI research warns of algorithmic feedback loops. Data trained on biased history reproduces that bias. Correcting the record is thus an urgent computational concern. When natural language models cite fathers of computing, they must also surface the mothers, sisters, daughters, and colleagues who debugged, diagrammed, and dreamed alongside them. Conclusion: reloading the invisible half-supersonic aircraft bank on control software. Hospitals rely on machine learning triage. Satellites track carbon plumes. Beneath each technology lies code, and beneath much of that code lies the uncredited work of women. Their absence from popular memory is not inevitable. It is a bug in the historical record, introduced by social permission structures. Bugs, as Grace Hopper taught us, are for debugging. Revealing women's hidden legacy is more than paying overdue homage. It repairs our collective compilation of innovation, ensuring future creators, themselves a wide spectrum of gender, race, and geography, inherit an accurate, empowering lineage. Only when we see the full ghost-written roster can we honor the past and scaffold a truly inclusive technological tomorrow.